The headline is blunt because the evidence is blunt. China has built a structural edge in cyberspace, and the U.S. is playing catch-up on its own digital home front. The essay opens with Salt Typhoon, a multi-year intrusion in which China-backed hackers burrowed into major U.S. telecom networks, copied conversations, and even built the ability to track U.S. intelligence and law enforcement movements. And officials may never know just how deep this access truly went. So, as always, a bit of a disclaimer, this is a summary of the author's opinions, that being Neuberger, and it being China is winning the cyberwar. It's her article in this past Foreign Affairs, September-October 2025. With that being said, her core lesson is America can't win a cyber contest with defenses and diplomacy as usual. The United States needs a clear doctrine of deterrence that 1. Hardens critical infrastructure at scale, 2. Restores credible offensive options that threaten what Beijing values, and 3. Communicates bright red lines with enough specificity to be believed, but not so much that adversaries patch those holes. So, a vulnerable home front. China's recent operations weren't just about stealing secrets. Investigators found Chinese malware placed inside U.S. energy, water, pipeline, and transportation systems, code apparently meant for sabotage in a crisis, from delaying mobilization to triggering cascading power failures. Even without firing, the latent threat can deter U.S. action. Then, basically why they can and why we don't stop them. Beijing benefits from an authoritarian model, centralized visibility and control over infrastructure that amplifies defense and lowers perceived retaliation risk. The U.S. model is a mirror image of that. Thousands of privately owned systems with uneven security, constitutional limits on government monitoring, and patchwork company-by-company approach to defending the most crucial networks. In practice, a small water plant with default passwords becomes an entry point to that strategic risk. So essentially, it's, because they're an authoritarian regime, they can have that general oversight, and they can pretty much always have kind of an active defense, if that makes sense. Then, Washington and Beijing have tried cyber understandings before, though. So Obama and Xi's 2015 pledge against IP theft for commercial gain, Trump's 2018 indictments and sanctions, Biden's high-level engagement, and Chinese promise not to meddle in the 2024 elections. These were useful but insufficient amid intensifying Chinese campaigns. As Neuberger notes, traditional diplomacy is a weak tool for managing cyber warfare. Also, Chinese military doctrine bakes cyber into its own crisis playbooks, so offensive capabilities aren't ad hoc. They're integrated into an active defense. The idea that striking first can be the best defense. That doctrinal shift increases the odds that pre-positioned malware will be used to shape a battlefield before shots are even fired. And then basically, how can we fix this at home because of how our political systems are different, right? Because of democracy, the Constitution, and so on. You can't just have complete authoritarian oversight over everything, right? So we can do that with digital twins. So Neuberger's most concrete fix is a national push to create AI-enabled digital twins of critical infrastructure, basically having virtual replicas that can baseline normal behavior, flag anomalies, simulate cascading failures, and give leaders real-time views of resilience under attack. Start with the grid at the Department of Energy, then scale to like water and other sectors using national lab expertise and private sector partnerships. This is a democratic alternative to China's surveillance-heavy model, so visibility without a police state. This would also close the regulatory gap, so U.S. law lets operators monitor their own networks and share threat intel, but in many sectors there's no requirement to actually do that, and oversight is spotty. That leaves blind spots that China can exploit, Regulators need consistent auditing to ensure baseline defenses and collaboration across operators and with the federal government. So, defense isn't just enough, and the United States must be able to target Chinese military assets essential in crises, not just civilian infrastructure. In line with international law, it must state three principles plainly. Basically, the whole we will attribute, we are resilient, and we will retaliate, mostly just being a deterrent. Right, so credibility requires persistent messaging with just enough detail to signal real capability without giving China what it needs to fix those vulnerabilities. And an example of this is Russia's pre-2022 blackout in Ukraine, showing basically why oversharing can backfire. And the politics problem. So comprehensive cyber defense needs legal authority, sustained investment, and mandates industry won't love, to say the least. Congress has been reluctant. Companies resist cost-raising requirements and basically having fixable policy, but it won't fix itself. So Neuberger's bottom line isn't to panic. It's urgency with a plan. So China has leveraged structure, as in centralized control, integrated doctrine, and pre-positioned access to build real coercive options against the U.S. homeland. To change that balance, Washington needs a doctrine that pairs smarter shields like digital twins, required monitoring, real oversight with credible swords, offensive options aimed at military targets, and clear communication that deters miscalculation. So a bit of a background too. Ann Neuberger is a distinguished lecturer at Stanford and the Hoover Institution, and this was before serving as Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology on the U.S. National Security Council for the Biden administration, and has spent over a decade in various roles at the NSA. So there's a little bit of a background on her. With that being said, let me know what you guys think and so on, and I will see you guys on the next one.